Okay, terrific. So I'm looking at you, student B. I'm using letters to anonymize these things. They're posted on YouTube. I don't think anyone's going to watch them, and if they do, they don't know who you are, so no big deal. Plus, I'm not discussing your grades, so no FERPA violation. Anyway, starting at the top, introduction. You need a title for this thing. I think you gave one in a later edition of this. In any event, so the first sentence, instances of large-scale forced migration have long created a humanitarian crisis that requires response to the humanitarian. That's a version of what I call the generic cold open sentence, which always runs about the same, ever since it was decided in 1973 in Roe versus Wade, abortion has been a hot topic, hot button social issue in the United States, and the situation is only getting worse today. Always that same format. You want to never ever use the generic cold open. And professors, lecturers like me, we're so sick of seeing it. Just your paper begins further down. Write it, get it out of your system, and then just strike it out. So I started with your second sentence, while colonial powers previously kept humanitarian forced migration. It should be crises, regionally contained. The post-colonial, which I think you hyphenate, or maybe it's even a word. I mean, I should look that up. Generally, I also suggest if it's something like that where there's words are changing even in our lifetimes, right? So first there are two separate words, then they get hyphenated as compound words, and then they get merged into single words. We could be in the middle of that. Just see what your authors do and go with that. And if there's a 2 out of 3 majority, go with that. During the post-colonial period, or the post-colonial period is seen, you say a greater influx. I say significant influxes. The reason for significant, it's often useful in papers. Is often useful in papers because the use of the term significant is a signal to people that you're dealing with something that is derived empirically, for lack of a better term. In any event. Okay. The expansion, and you say the globalization of migratory crisis has prompted Western governments to increasingly assert. I changed this slightly. The expansion of, not globalization, but the expansion, because it's not truly global, right? I mean, not everywhere around the earth at all points on the globe has a migratory crisis. So it's an expansion, and Western governments assert their interests. I took out increasingly. Seemed like an unnecessary modifier to me. In any event, when you bring in something, I'm moving down the paragraph a little bit now. When you bring in an initialism like NGO, I always put the from now on in front of it, and you also need a cite there on that sentence, obviously. You start off the last sentence in that paragraph with additionally. Additionally is a bit clunky. In addition usually sounds better. You can, that's one of those points that there's disagreement right now. Some people who study writing feel one way about it. I'm in the in addition camp. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but I think that the general weight of authority is with in addition as opposed to additionally. You do use you complexify. That's called a zombie noun. Look that up in Garner. Also called, it's nominalization, taking something like complex, adding something like ism or ified or whatever to it. Adjectives being turned into verbs and so on. Just say complicated. Migration is complicated, the management and application. It's cleaner. Should avoid zombie nouns. Again, check out Garner. As a result of these developments in the humanitarian system, you can just get rid of all of that and just say, because of those shifts, methods of managing and categorizing immigrants seeking to enter Western countries to receive aid have grown complex and ineffective. Categorizing, the managing and categorizing immigrants seeking to enter Western countries to receive aid actually should be has grown complex. I should change that. I'm making modifications to these as I see them. I'll send you the updated copy. The trick there is that has goes with that sort of compound managing and categorizing. Has grown complex and ineffective, and you need a site. Then you say this categorization in the next sentence. Follow me here. We're driving down the highway. We go by somebody with a flat tire, and then we see somebody up ahead who's got the radiators overheated. I'm going to talk about that guy back there with the flat tire and this guy up ahead. In terms of time, it's the same thing. And here, we have these two words, that and this. You're talking about something that you already covered, a type of categorization. So it's not this categorization I'm about to tell you about, it's that categorization I already told you about. You will see if you adopt that throughout your writing, everything just has a little bit more flow to it, a little bit more, the reader has an easier time moving along. One way to check your writing and how well it's going is if your reader can, or if you can just read it out loud from beginning to end, you don't slow down, you don't stop, you don't stumble, you don't get caught up. That's usually an indication of good writing. And changing this to that is one of those things there. So you say, that categorization. In fact, yeah, that's what you say. But which categorization? Which particular categorization? I'm asking, because I think that's ambiguous to the reader. Initially developed to address the, and you say diversity is existing. How about the differences among, not amongst, but among groups of immigrants? And then I say, so that individuals fleeing imminent threats could be given priority. That approach, again, we've already discussed the approach, has transformed through the years, and you have to become a bureaucratic roadblock. I say into a bureaucratic roadblock. That one's not such a big deal to me. Sometimes I try different takes on things. You can look at it and decide which one works better. Sometimes I'm just kicking around ideas with you when I do this. In any event, after the semicolon, okay, so I changed it a little bit there too. I said roadblock used to slow the flow of immigrants into developed Western nations, semicolon. The consequences for migrant groups have been catastrophic. And then you would give an example there, ideally. You say through a series of reports. I would say in a series of reports published between 2007 and 2018. And I think I left most of the rest of that alone. So just needed a cite on that one. So the real criticism here is that you're not paying enough attention to the project guide. You didn't put a title on it. That's in the project guide. And there's a paragraph in particular in there that I am saying you need to use. So what you want to do is say, this project will review 3 related scholarly articles that have addressed various aspects of your topic. First, Article 1, and explain what Article 1 does. Next, Article 2 does something else. And finally, Article 3. After the exploration is complete, focus will shift to explanation of what you're working on, and an explanation, critique, suggestion will be presented and explored. There's a video on this. There's the main project guide. Ask me if you have questions, but you need to incorporate that language in the introduction. That's part of the assignment. All right, I'm going to go do another video on your introduction now, and we'll go from there. Not your introduction, your literature review.